and hear it,
maintain it,
accept and maintain it.
May I unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth.
May I unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. Okay, thank you all. I'm glad you could sit a little zazen before this talk. I needed a little bit more time, so thank you very much. So I want to share three things today, three aspects of this talk. One is to talk about the role of this next ceremony we'll be doing, the repentance. It's the rite of repentance. And of course, the word repentance can conjure up all kinds of images, thoughts, ideas. So let's parse that out a little bit. And I really want to welcome your questions and comments, to dispel any kind of misunderstandings around what this is about. And that goes for any time. Feel free to interrupt me as we're going here if questions come up. The second thing is I want to talk about the meaning or practices around the name that you will receive and the rakusu that you'll receive, as well as the ancestors, how to make sense of the lineage. And then the third thing I want to talk about is just differences between the precepts versus, say, commandments. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing, repentance. Okay, are you ready to become a Buddha?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. Maybe there's some reticence there. Like I don't know if I can be a Buddha, but that's really the heart of this whole ceremony. The heart of the ceremony is that you go from an ordinary being to a Buddha in the process of the ceremony. And so the ceremony itself is a ritual. It's ritually choreographed in that way. So this is symbolic, right? We're going to be moving as though we're becoming Buddha. And when you practice becoming a Buddha, guess what happens? You become a Buddha, right? When we practice being Buddha, we become Buddha. That's the idea. Okay, so let me share a little bit about the what's called the Kechi Myaku, which means the blood lineage. This is connected to the rite of repentance, and this historically it started to receive the blood lineage with the precepts. Those two things became connected during the Nara period in Japan, which is roughly 710 to 794. So these two things came connected. And at that time, people saw this Kechi Myaku, the blood lineage, as a means to receiving a good rebirth. There are documents, apparently, I'm not sure, I can't verify this. This was based on my own notes from a Japanese teacher, that the Portuguese Catholic priests that were in Japan at that time, during the Jukai, the precepts ceremony, they observed the priests throwing the Kechi Myaku out to the participants. And there may be 100 to 200 people participating in that ceremony. So if you can imagine, there's a priest or maybe several priests, and they have this blood lineage, and they're throwing it out into the group of participants, right? Isn't that crazy to think about? How do we do it?
What are they throwing? What is it?
That's those stuff right. You wrote all the names on there last month, remember? Mm-hmm. So that piece of paper is considered really, really valuable. At least historically, it has been considered with great, great value. It has a lot of different meanings. So one of the meanings is that it's like your ticket to nirvana, right? Or your ticket to a happy rebirth, to a good rebirth. And for priests, it served a very practical function it meant that there was a change in status for you as a person in relationship to your social standing. Your social standing shifted. You would have to pay certain fees to the government in order to take on the role of a priest, to be a priest. And so, and I'm not clear on all of the details there, but there was a shift in status as far as this goes when we're talking about Japan. And I'm pretty sure in other countries as well. If you shave your head wearing robes, then there's a shift in the way that people perceive you and what you do and what your roles are. That changes. So around 1600 to 1800, those 2 centuries, there is a refinement and a reforming of the precept ceremony. There's a huge history around this. It actually begins with a Tendai Buddhist master named Saicho. And Saicho, so the Tendai school of Buddhism is the school that Dogen started in. He started it as a Tendai monk at a very young age, and then was not satisfied after a number of years, maybe 8 or so years, 10 years or something. He wasn't satisfied with the Buddhism what he was receiving at that time. And that inspired him to go to China to see how the practice was going on there. He received the lineage of Tendo Nyojo, who was a Soto Zen monk, and that's what he brought back. And actually, he also received the lineage of the Rinzai monk Eisai. So that was prior. So he left the Tendai sect to study Rinzai Zen, because that was the first school of Zen that came to Japan. And he did that for a number of years. And then he and Myozen, his teacher, went together to China to find out what was going on in Japan at that time. And then they traveled around, and this is where Dogen met his teacher. So Saicho is the one, though, that really begins a major reform in the precepts, because historically there were a huge number of precepts, and still today in Buddhist countries like China, Korea, Southeast Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, monks receive 250 precepts, nuns receive 300 and some precepts, and lay people generally receive 5 precepts. So how did we go from 250 to 16 for both monks, nuns, and lay people in Japan? That's a whole nother question. I'm not going to attempt to answer that here, but it's a fascinating history to learn. I'm still not knowledgeable enough about it. I just started reading up on it. But in any case, we have the 16 precepts. That's what we receive in the Soto Zen. So this reform of Jukai also it took place around the 1600 to 1800, and one of the main monks that was part of this was Geshu Soko, which is in the Nebraska Zen Center lineage. You chant his name when you recite the lineage, and he's also in the lineage that you'll be receiving from me, Geshu Soko. And that's where our lineages break. That's where they split. I shouldn't say break, but that's where they split. So Geshu Soko was probably a very famous teacher. He probably had a lot of students, and each of those students, they had their own lineages then. And so Katagiri Roshi's lineage from Geshu Soko went in one direction, and my teacher's lineage came from a different source, but they both have that source in Geshu Soko. So I thought that's kind of interesting. I'll say a little bit more about that in a bit. But during this time period with Geshu Soko, there was a 7-day precept ceremony that became the standard for a precept. So in other words, it's a 7-day period of ceremonies. And the ceremonies include some of the ceremonies that we did today, plus lots of Dharma talks about each of the precepts, each of the 16 precepts. And we had a similar ceremony. So sometimes 7-day, we had a 5-day ceremony at Zen Shuji a little over a year ago. And it was amazing. They only do this once every 20 years there.
I thought it was like every 100 years. Every
Yeah, every 20 years. I remember when I first started studying with my teacher in 1998, 1999, they had a precept ceremony. So it must have been, we did it at 2021. It must have been like 2001. They had a precept ceremony at Zen Shuji, and I didn't get to go. My teacher went. I remember staying at the temple, and I had no idea what she was doing. I had no idea what this precept ceremony she was doing, because I had a little precept ceremony a couple of years earlier. I had no idea there was going to be like 100 people there and all that. But 20 years later, I got to participate in the precept ceremony, and it just blew my mind. And it made me realize that there is a lot of variety in ways of receiving the precepts. So what I've done here is, you see this chart that I've made to try to make some sense of how the precepts have been received within the Soto tradition. So now this isn't, again, I don't have all of this is a limited, right? I've broken it up into 3 different possibilities, but I think that there's a lot of crossover in some of these, and you'll see as we go. So there's 3 different kinds of ceremonies for receiving the precepts. One is Shukkei Tokudo, the other one is Zaikei Tokudo, and the third one is Jukai E. Shukkei Tokudo means home leaver. A home leaver, Shukkei is a home leaver, and Tokudo means receiving the precepts. All right. Zaikei Tokudo means a householder receives the precepts, and Jukai E means a precepts receiving ceremony. So those are 3 distinct ceremonies. So for Shukkei Tokudo, a person shaves their head, they receive bowls, and they receive the lineage, the Kechi Myaku, the blood lineage. They receive a Buddhist name, and they leave home to train. They abandon worldly life. Right? And the ceremony is generally done by one abbot. They might have some help, but generally it's done by an abbot. And it's usually fairly small. There's not going to be more than, like, say, 5 people probably, unless the teacher is super famous, in which case it might be different. And historically, the person's social status changed. Zaikei Tokudo is for a householder, somebody who decides they want to receive the precepts but stay at home. You're not gonna shave your head. However, usually this ceremony was done for a temple family member. Say, for example, the wife of the priest. They would do this ceremony, and actually in the standards for Soto Zen, it says that they do shave their head, which is interesting. So you can leave home, you could stay at home, but shave your head, maybe just for the ceremony. I don't know. So that's why I put a question mark there, because I haven't seen that happen. There's no bowls received. They receive a lineage, a name. I put in bowls here, but I shouldn't. That's not. And they receive a rakusu. And this is done generally by one person and one abbot. It's fairly small, and there's no change in social standings for that person. And then there's Jukai-e, which is a precepts receiving ceremony. You don't shave your head, there's no bowls involved, but you receive the lineage, you receive a name, but no rakusu. Okay? And usually there's many priests involved in that ceremony, and there may be as many as 100 to 500 people receiving the precepts at once. And it's a long, it's a 7-day ceremony, whereas this is maybe an hour. So what we have done in the United States, and probably in some ways in Japan too, is somewhere between these two things happening, right? Because here, generally speaking, probably how Nonin did it, the way my teacher did it, you usually have a sesshin, and then at the end of the sesshin, a precept ceremony, and you receive your rakusu, lineage, name, and but it's done by just one person. You don't shave your head, but there is some elements here that are from the Jukai as well. And we just experienced some of those when we did the 2 ceremonies prior and the one that we'll do next. All right. So that's just kind of a way to maybe organize ourselves, is to know that there's, and before this got all standardized in between 16 and 1800, there was apparently a lot of diversity in the precept ceremony, how it was done. So this just kind of gives you a little indication that there's quite a bit of diversity here. Yeah. So one of the ceremonies that is the most important for the Jukai-e, the 7-day ceremony, is the repentance rite. And for Zaikei Tokudo, this shortened ceremony, basically that is done with the verse, the repentance verse. You do the repentance verse before you receive the precepts. You guys know that one. All my past and harmful karma, etc. That verse is done, and then you receive the precepts. That's how we do it with the full moon ceremony. But with the Jukai-e, you have a whole ceremony dedicated to what's called repentance. And this is considered the most important. So let me describe briefly what we'll be doing next. So shortly after this talk, you'll each meet me upstairs, and I'll give you
Line everybody up.
We'll line everybody up, yep. When one by one will come in, I'll give you a piece of paper, and that piece of paper is symbolic of holding all of your transgressions, all of the harmful karma that you've ever committed. And I'll give that piece of paper to you, and then you'll take it back, and you are welcome to write anything down on that paper that you want to absolve yourself from.
So
Yeah.
can I just
Interject, please.
logistically, I don't know if we're gonna have a break after this, but we're gonna kind of all line up. Then then you all are gonna go in, get your paper, and then just come right back out. Come downstairs. There's some pens here if you want to write something down. You don't have to write anything down. Nobody's gonna be reading it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't need to know your transgressions. It's not like a confessional. But you can. That's for you. It's your personal thing. So whatever it is that there may be one word that you want to use that symbolizes all of your bad karma, or maybe a particular thing that you really regret that you want to write down in there, or one word that symbolizes that thing, and then you'll return it to me. I won't be looking at it, but we'll put it in a little bag, and then we will go outside, and we're gonna burn up all those papers. I'm gonna take care of them. And then what's it got?
No, I was just, because we talked about, this morning we were talking about repentance, and it's like repentance is, and it's different from shame.
Mm.
You know, it's different, it's like it's like guilt is when I am wrong, shame is when guilt is when I did something wrong, shame is when I am wrong. It's not about being wrong, it's about, well, I love the thing you said. Can you say the thing you said again about how every moment, you know, like every time you being a Buddhist is every moment.
Right,
like
okay,
you
I'm getting
realize,
there.
okay.
I'm getting there.
Oh,
Thank
sorry,
you.
I mean, better.
That's all right.
Okay.
So after we burn up all that karma, we'll come back in, and you'll come back to your places, and Taizan and I will circumambulate you all, because now you're getting there. You're ready to be Buddha, because you've cleansed yourself of all of that bad karma. Right? So now your body and mind are prepared to be fully become Buddha. So it's important when we do this, when you're thinking about your own past, it's not to shame, like you said, it's not to shame you, it's not to make you feel guilty, but it's to instill kind of the feeling, the heart feeling that we want to have when we go into this particular ceremony. You know, so however you can open your heart to acknowledge regrets. That's the sense of it. Not to shame you, not to make you feel bad, but just to open your hearts to past regrets. We all have them, and then we're gonna ritually burn them up. And there's something so important about this idea of repentance. One of the teachers I trained with, Harada Seke Roshi, just very, very briefly, my teacher trained with him more and talked about him, but Daigaku's teacher, he says that shikantaza, you know, this just sitting, is repentance. He equates the two. Shikantaza is repentance. And my teacher often said that there are 3 gateways to practice. One is self-improvement. A second one is impermanence, which means we recognize the swiftness of life. Something happens to recognize the swiftness of life. And the third gate is repentance. We've done something we regret. These are all gateways to practice. Saicho, the monk I named earlier, the monk of the Tendai school that Dogen started with, he says about the precepts, he says, they take the bad upon themselves in order to benefit others. Right? That's the purpose. We take the bad upon ourselves, right? Open ourselves, take other people's bad even, take the bad upon ourselves, right? In order to benefit others. This is the highest compassion. This is the highest compassion. So we want to, ideally, the practice, we're practicing repentance here in a ceremonial way. But this is not a substitute for repentance in your own life. And there's something wonderful that happens in relationships when you are willing to say, you know what, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. And we're really practicing that. We're practicing that here in this ceremony, practicing saying, I'm sorry. But then it doesn't do any good for our relationships if we're not able to say, I'm in the relationship. And it's tricky. We need to have good examples of apologies in our society, because we see on so many levels where people just don't know how to do it. They refuse to do it, they fight. So being able to apologize is absolutely essential to this path. One of my CPE, chaplaincy training supervisors, he said to us, do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship? Mm-hmm. That's the question. Do you want to be right And this is what we let go of. We let go of, that's a practice, let go of being right. And because that's going to keep the relationship going. You don't have to be right. It's okay if you're right, but let go of it. Don't try to impose your rightness on others. If possible, I know it's difficult. I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time to it, and I have to learn. I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to not be right. And one image around this that you can keep in mind, one of the things that my teacher beautifully, she said to me when I was really hard on myself, she said, and she would say all this often, the only way you can be this big is if you become this low, this small, right? That's why we bow. We bow, if we want to be big, we got to be willing to be small. And if you think about a wave on the ocean, for the wave to be big, it's going up and over one direction. One direction's going this way, the other direction's going this way. Right? So there's this reversal taking place. And if you want to be a big wave, you got to be, there's that small part there, right? Something has to recede in order for something to advance. So the recession is the bow. The advancement is the Buddha now is ready to advance. All right, Zazen, Buddha, repentance. Those three things are equal. Are you ready to be a Buddha? Okay. All right. Okay, second thing I wanted to share is about the name you'll receive, the rakusu and the lineage. So as far as your name goes, different teachers have different approaches and ideas with these names that you receive. And the way that my teacher explained it and the way that I do it is that the name that you receive is something that you are and something that you can deepen or grow into or become more. Is that what Sosan is?
Yes.
Same thing?
Yes.
Yeah. You can imagine that would be difficult in a ceremony that might be with 100 people or 500 people if you don't know everybody. But this is a smaller ceremony, so we know each other a little bit better. And but some people use their names, some people don't. The way my teacher would do it, as soon as she gave you a Buddhist name, she would start calling you by that name. And so she always called me Daishin. And she would call all of her students, whether they're priests or lay people, she would call them by their Dharma name. And I have a different approach with that. I know Nonan's way, from what I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, that the name, if you were a priest, then he'd call you by your priest name, but if you're a lay person, he didn't call you by your Dharma name.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So I want to take a kind of a middle road approach here and say, names are very personal. And if you want to use your name, that's your choice. And it's your responsibility to let people know that that's how you want to be called, if that's what you choose to do. And if you don't want to use your name, that's also your choice. If you were a priest, I would say definitely use your Dharma name. But as a lay person, that's really up to you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to necessarily call you by your name, your Dharma name, unless you start saying, "Hey, I want to be called by my Dharma name," and then do that. All right. So that's my take on that. With regards to the rakusu, so each of you have sown or receive a rakusu. The rakusu also, it's a Buddha robe. It's an abbreviated version of what I'm wearing right now. And Dogen, when he went to China, apparently there was a lot of corruption in Japanese Buddhism at the time of Dogen. And when he went to China, he was really surprised. He wept when he saw the way the monks revered the robe. They would put it on their head and chant what's called the robe verse, and then put it on their body. And when he saw that sight, he was crying because he was so moved by it. Like, you can honor this. You can, the robe is really meant to be honored. And that's why we put it on top of the head. The head is the highest point on the human body, so it's elevated up as to the highest point. Bring our palms together and chant the verse. I would strongly encourage you to wear your rakusu when you come to Nebraska Zen Center. My teacher was really strict about that. I remember one time I forgot my rakusu when we were doing the robe verse, and at the end of the robe verse, she said, "Where is your rakusu?" I said, "It's in the car." Yeah, I saw yours out there. And she just really made it clear where you're. I'm not my teacher, but I would really encourage you when you're here at Nebraska Zen Center, wear your rakusu. It's the time to wear it. You're probably not going to wear it in public, but definitely wear it at the temple. It's just a wonderful reminder. The rakusu is a beautiful. And a Buddha robe is a beautiful expression of your practice, and to wear it, it means. May I never go hungry for spiritual nourishment. May I never go hungry for spiritual nourishment. That's what that's why it's patterned after the rice fields. The rice fields are soaked into the material symbolically, and then we wrap ourselves with those rice fields because we're wearing the Dharma. The Dharma isn't something that's spoken. I mean, it is, but it's also something that we wear. It's the Dharma is the steps that we take, the way that we walk. So if you come in the morning for Zazen, you don't want to have your rakusu on your body, because usually you chant the robe verse first and then you put the rakusu on. So chanting the robe verse, put the robe on the head, and then you put the rakusu on, and you do it ceremonially. But if you come in the middle of the day and it's that time is already passed, so you could come wearing the rakusu into the temple. When you put it on, it's a good practice though. First, you can do this by yourself. You can put it on your head yourself, wherever you happen to be, face the wall and kneel and bring your palms together. How great the robe of liberation, a formless field of merit, wrapping ourselves in Buddha's teaching, we free all beings. And then you remove it and put it on. Yeah.
Is it appropriate to say it in Japanese? Is that normal?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can.
Would it be normal to do it at home before somebody's own private practice?
Yes, absolutely. You can definitely recite the Japanese, and you can definitely do it at home for your own personal practice.
So when arriving at the Zen Center, is there somewhere specific that people tend to face, or is just kind of any wall?
Any wall, yeah.
Not in the bathroom.
Right, you don't want to take it in the bathroom.
Okay.
You don't want to take it, that's a good point. You don't want to take
wear
it
in the bathroom.
Yeah, take it off before you put it in the
That's why there
bathroom.
are little hooks there.
Yeah, put it on those hooks.
I never heard the facing the wall though. That's cool. No, I mean that's neat. I mean,
That's how I understand it. I mean, that's the more formal way, is you face the wall whenever you're changing. At least that's how monks do it. When you're changing, you face the wall and you're putting on your robes, all of your robes, this stuff. But for, even if you're not a monk, it's better to have more rules than less, and then you break the rules. I'd rather tell you too much than not enough. All right. Okay, then the third thing on this, the lineage. And this just briefly to share, I mentioned this difference between Nebraska Zen Center's lineage and the lineage that you'll be receiving tomorrow. And it begins with, our lineage has that common ancestor of Geshu Soko Daosho, and then it splits off from there. So when you're reciting the lineage here, this is something that I learned more recently. When you're reciting, this temple, Nebraska Zen Center, has its own lineage. And it's the abbot, the founder of the temple, who we consider Nonin to be. His lineage is the lineage that we recite when we're doing the lineage here as a group. But if you want, as a practice, on your own, you can recite the lineage that I give to you. And I can give you more information on that if you want to do that on your own. And you just recite the names and up to Geshu Soko, and then the other names that go beyond him. So if you're doing a little service or ceremony on your own, at your own home, you can do that.
Which would end with your name.
Which would end, you don't want to do my name because I'm still alive.
Understood.
And I'm here. So you wouldn't do my name until after I die. But you could do my teacher's name. She's still alive, but you don't know her. She's not here. So you can do her name and her. So I'll just give you a little information. So yeah, my lineage. So my teacher is Dayan Banaj Genshun Dayan. So she is the one that effectively, she's like I don't know, she would probably scoff at being called like the equivalent of Katagiri Roshi. I don't think she's the equivalent, but she brought Zen from America to Japan. It wasn't her teacher that brought it. Yeah, see, Katagiri Roshi came to the United States and spread the Dharma. My teacher went to Japan, received the Dharma there, and then took it back to the United States. So it's a little bit different there. Which is, think about that for a second. Katagiri Roshi was amazing that he could learn English and preach the Dharma in English, being a native Japanese. And there's something very fantastic that happens when you're trying to preach the Dharma in another language. And you can see it in his Dharma talks, if you or the writing, the books that have been attributed to him. The way that he spoke is not exactly the English that it makes sense. It's been polished by his American editors, but it's also a very unique way of speaking. So same with Suzuki Roshi, very interesting. And my teacher did it in reverse. She went to Japan, studied Japanese, and learned and then had to learn Japanese. There's temple vernacular or temple vocabulary, ancient Buddhist, ancient Japanese and Chinese texts that she was studying, not just the modern Japanese. And she would often talk about how that's, something happens there. Bodhidharma, he goes to China and he's got to communicate the Dharma to somebody Chinese, an Indian communicating it to somebody Chinese. And the Chinese master has to understand this Indian master. So she would often say, if Taiso Eka could do it, so could I. Right? There's something that happens there where there's cross-cultural transmission, there's language, something happens with the language there. And this has made, Buddhism has been flexible over the centuries, enabling the transmission of Dharma to different languages, different countries, different cultures in ways that are pretty interesting. Daikon Eno was illiterate. He couldn't even speak or he couldn't write. But he had a Daikon Eno. And he's the fifth ancestor, another real famous.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
Hui Ning, he couldn't write. He was illiterate. And my teacher would say, if somebody illiterate could transmit the Dharma, I bet I could too. Right? So then there's her teacher, who was Noda Daito Roshi. So just going backwards to Geshu. So her teacher, Noda Daito Roshi, was able to transmit it to a foreigner and a female. Right? So that's an important piece too. That she, to my knowledge, my teacher is the first female in the lineage of Buddhas and ancestors. She's the first one in that particular lineage. Her teacher was male, and he had a very interesting life himself. I'd love to go into depth about it, but I don't know him that much. But his family and he grew up in Manchuria, China, when it was occupied by Japan prior to World War II. And when Japan lost the war, that their property was confiscated. It was no longer theirs. They had to return to Japan, and they had a little piece of land on the side of a mountain that they resided in, and the buildings were dilapidated, were falling apart. Long story short, he decided as an adult to become a monk and did the training, and then came back to the dilapidated houses and built a temple on that land. So he is, the name of the temple is Kappa Dojo, and he built a school that's dedicated to bullied children. He does I think I mentioned last time, he does a taiko group and lots of other things. He has a little restaurant there. So if you ever get to go to Japan,
He's still alive?
yeah, he's still alive, and his son has effectively taken over the temple. He was invited to be the head training master at Sojiji, which is the one of the two head temples of Soto Zen in Japan. There's Eiheiji and Sojiji. So Sojiji was founded by Keizan Zenji, Eiheiji by Dogen Zenji. And so he was invited to be not the head of that temple, but the head training master of that temple. And he did that for like 5 years. The name of that position is the Godo. And they're kind of like what we call the Ino here, telling people what to do and how to practice, and barking a lot to a bunch of young Japanese monks. And he got an award for starting his own temple, because you know, in Japan, many monks, priests, they inherit temples that they inherited from their family. And these temples have been around for several centuries. He started his own temple from scratch. His father was not a priest, which is atypical for a lot of Soto Zen priests. And he received an award from the higher-ups in Soto Zen many years ago for his work building his own temple. And then his teacher, Daishun Shimbi, Daiyosho, he has passed. And I remember that he passed shortly after I was ordained. It was like within a week. And my teacher had to go to Japan for the funeral ceremonies for him. And actually, he's the teacher that ordained her. Because when she asked her teacher, Kappa Noda Daito Roshi, to ordain her, he said he would, but then he wanted his teacher to do it, because his teacher, Daishin Shimbi, had a position in the Soto Shu. So he was higher up. He wanted to make sure that the ceremony would be approved and authentic, so he had his teacher do it. But then he later supervised over the other ceremonies that she had. So he is her root teacher, but actually his teacher, Noda Daito, her grandfather teacher, was the teacher that she ordained with. And his story is, I don't know very much about his story, but I know that he was an orphan. So it's not uncommon for people it's not uncommon in some cases for priests to take in orphans and then raise them to become priests. Yeah, that's not an uncommon thing. And he was in that position. And as far as I understood from my teacher, he did that willingly, not because he felt he had to, but willingly because he wanted to repay the debt of being taken care of. So that was his case. And there's other cases where people may not feel that same way, but I think he did. I don't know anything about his teacher though, but he took it, but his teacher took in an orphan, which is kind of interesting. And I'm not sure the story of how he was orphaned and all that. The other thing I want to mention here, I meant to make this short, but it went a little bit longer. Other teachers in the lineage past Geshu Soko are Meido Yuton, another famous teacher, did some what's the word I'm thinking of? Reforming within Soto Zen. Manzan Dohaku is a really important teacher for reforming the precepts, the way the precepts were given. And Banjin Dotan also wrote a lot about that too, and reforming. So those three names in there are famous monks in my lineage. All right. I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences between precepts and commandments, but I'm curious about the time. What time is it?
About 2:30.
And we said we were going to start at 2:30, didn't we? 2:30. Okay.
2:35.
All right.
2:34.
All right. I think I will end there then. I think we've got enough to go on. Does anybody have any questions before we?
Yeah, is Pam and I gonna contribute or participate in the writing of?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can do yours,
Yeah.
and you can do your late husband's too. The one thing I wanted to mention is that the precepts can, and it's not uncommon for them to be given to somebody who's deceased. So that's a common practice within Soto Zen. And
So I did that with I put all my whole family's deceased, so I sent their names into the Soshu with the Yokai.
Oh, did you?
I did. It was really, I thought as I'm writing the check like, geez, I'm thinking, well, it's worth it if they can get one little teeny tiny bit of like relief. I got.
And it recognizes that there's continuity, that life doesn't end with death. And we acknowledge that too. Life doesn't begin with birth, life doesn't end with death. There's continuity that takes place there. Okay. Yeah,
Sorry,
Carolee.
I am interested in the explanation between precepts and commandments, so can we have that another time?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to do it now?
Yeah.
They're on a roll, so yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Skip the break. Right.
You just go right into it. All right.
It's something that comes up in conversations.
Yeah.
Try to relate. So I've said, I'm taking this precept ceremony this weekend, and I said it's kind of like commandments, but different.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll share that. I think it seems like an interesting point. Okay. Commandments. Not to take human life. That's one of the commandments, right? Don't kill. It's not about not taking other life, right? So the commandments are talking about human life. And here's where the Buddhist precepts differ. It's of course saying don't take human life, but it's also saying don't take any life. And this is where it becomes impossible. And this is where the repentance comes in. Because you can't do it. Every breath you take, you're taking life. In some traditions in India, the Jains, they wear cloth over their mouths so that they don't ingest the beings that they breathe in. So ahimsa, not taking life, or doing no harm, is taken really seriously. But there's also a recognition within Buddhism that this is impossible. It's impossible for us not to take life. You eat a chicken, you've got to kill the chicken, right? If you eat a carrot, you have to kill the carrot. So don't think that
when you're cultivating the carrot, you're going to kill some stuff.
Yeah, and when you cultivate, and that's why in the Buddha's time, he forbade his monks from growing food because they would be breaking the precepts if they had to cultivate the field, right? But in China, when Buddhism goes into China, the Chinese were like, you know what, we can't have people in our society who are not willing to work. So if you're going to be a monk, you had to cultivate the fields, and then the practice changed, and the monks actually grew their own food. They had to. And then there's the saying, a day without work is a day without food. That comes from the Chinese. And that's been carried through to Japan. So there's no way you can get out of taking life. And we recognize that. These are some of the small sins that we create every day just from being alive. That's why we're doing the repentance, because we're always, in a sense, we're always sinning. So whereas with the 10 Commandments, it's like a black and white. You do it or you don't do it. And there's laws and repercussions if you take human life, right? In any society, there is laws in that. And also within the 10 Commandments, the Abrahamic traditions give the okay if it's taking human life during war. There's a difference. If you're defending yourself and you take human life, that's okay. It's kind of assumed forgiven. Whereas in the Buddhist tradition, regardless of whether somebody is trying to hurt you or not, you would never take their life. I mean, there may be some exceptions. Well, let me just. There's a story of one of the Buddha's monks who was being really horribly treated and was going to lose his life, but he did everything that he could to not lose his Bodhi mind. And that's something that I heard too of my teacher. I remember talking about a Tibetan monk who was imprisoned during the Chinese occupation, and his practice was to do everything he could to not feel hatred towards his captors. So it's a little bit different. What do we do when we're in a situation where somebody is hurting us? And I would never say that we should just allow them to do that. Never. And I would never say that we shouldn't defend ourselves. Certainly, self-defense has been part of martial arts, has been part of the Zen tradition as well. But if we hurt somebody, that's still hurting somebody, and it's not necessarily forgiven because you were defending yourself. Or if you're in war, it doesn't necessarily just get your conscience still experiences, even if it was appropriate to do, your conscience still experiences that death in some way. And so that's why we practice repentance. Claude Anshin Thomas, he was a Vietnam vet, and he became a priest with Bernie Glassman, and he studied with Thich Nhat Hanh, and he writes a book about this. And I remember meeting him. He did a pilgrimage from New York City, I think it was, to Los Angeles or San Francisco on foot with a bunch of other people. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. And
Gates of Hell, right?
Gates of Hell, yeah.
That's a good book,
yeah. And so he talked about how he had to kill, he witnessed killing and having to kill innocent people. That was on his conscience, even though it was ordered. It was ordered by the government or his higher ups to do that, I'm sure. Yeah, and I'm not judging anybody for if you're in that position, and it's not always, you're not always given a choice about these things, but it's going to be on your conscience. So you can't just say, well, the priest, there's an exception in this case. We don't give an exception. We give opportunities for repentance and changing your life. In the case, Claude Anshin Thomas, his was an extreme case of having to kill innocent people. That's an extreme. I hope nobody ever has to be in that position. But Thich Nhat Hanh said, there's still a lot of people alive that you can protect now. Now go do it. Live your life in a way that protects other people, protect them from harm. So don't live with regret. That's not the point of repentance. It's to live your life. You made a mistake, learn from the mistake and see what you can do to change it, right? Do the opposite. If you've taken life, encourage it in some way. Find a meaningful way to do that. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, it seems like a lot of the purpose of precepts is to create harmony in the community.
Yeah, that's a part of it as well. That's part of it, creating harmony in the community.
Good relationships.
The commandments are given by God. That's how we see them in the Bible. God gives Moses the commandments, and these are the commandments given by God. As far as the precepts goes, though, the purpose is, in addition to what you just said beautifully about the harmony in the sangha, the precepts are the underpinning for concentration and insight. In other words, precepts, meditation, insight.
If you live an ethical life,
If you live an ethical life,
you can be a lot calmer on the cushion.
you'll be a lot. If you live an ethical life, you'll be a lot calmer on a cushion. There's no judge out there saying you've got to do this. Right? There's not. That's a huge difference there. There's nobody. The Buddha's not watching over your shoulders, writing down your good deeds and your bad deeds. What's happening is you'll see for yourself in meditation that when you follow the precepts properly, you're going to have a much better meditation practice. That's the purpose of the precepts. That's the foundation of our practice, actually, is receiving the precepts. That makes sense?
We had one young person at the multicultural fair say, it was a small group of kids, and one of them must have asked the other one, what is Buddhism? And one said, oh, they worship Buddha. And I was like, oh, no.
Right, and I know, this bothers me. It really bothers me when people, because that what people do is they see their religion and they try to make parallels with another religion. And so if your religion is, okay, well, I profess belief in God, then another religion, well, what do they profess belief in? Oh, they must profess belief in Buddha. Doesn't exactly fit, though. That's not why I think you guys get this. That's not why we are here and doing this. It's not to praise Buddha, although we did praise Buddha, but Buddha doesn't need our praise.
But it's a little tricky, because of all the bowing.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
even though like all the bowing is like, isn't that worship? I mean,
Right.
Like,
Right.
and then I mean, it feels a little worshipy,
Right.
So that's a little tricky, I think.
It is. And at the same time, we're doing it for ourselves. And we're recognizing that the Buddha is not up there, the Buddha is right here. But the only way you do that is to have an image. If you want, that's mind, right? That is mind. On the altar, that is our mind, right? That's mind there. It's not, this whole environment is ourself. So when we're offering praises to Buddha, we're offering praises to the enlightened mind, which is your mind. Yeah.
So I was gonna ask, like tomorrow, will you be commenting a little bit on this to like others who don't know that, to say when we're bowing it means this?
I said, yes, I will certainly do that. Yeah.
Worshiping Buddha.
Right.
Thank
Yes, definitely.
Back to
Yeah.
the precepts. I mean, to me, the beauty of the precepts is in the fact that you realize that you can't be successful in keeping the precepts all the time. And then it becomes an invitation to really pay attention to everything you do and to take full responsibility for these situations where you can't comply with it.
Yeah.
When you eat a meal.
Right. And there's also this saying that Zazen and the precepts are one. This is really important too. When you sit Zazen, you are holding the precepts 100%. So that's also part of it too. So yes, and when we sit Zazen, that's what the tradition says. We sit Zazen, we're 100% holding the precepts. We're doing minimal harm right? With body, speech, and mind. We're not moving, we're limiting our movement. We're not thinking bad thoughts about other people. Or if we are, we're noticing the thought maker. And we are not speaking, right? Mouth is closed, so you can't create bad karma when you sit zazen.
Karma-free zone.
Karma-free zone. Yeah, that's a nice one.
Oh, so-
Nice way to say it.
T-shirt. Thanks, George,
Yeah.
that's right.
But is it just bad karma-free zone? I know I'm getting a little far afield. Well, I'll save that for another time.
Yeah, you know, you're creating good karma. You're burning up bad karma, and you're purifying your mind through zazen. Your mind is purified. You're touching that pure mind when you're doing zazen. You know? Maybe you don't always feel it, but that's the intention. So the Zen precepts are to help us to enter into the world of the Buddha. That's what the precepts are about, and we've been doing that. Whereas the Ten Commandments is, you know, I hesitate to say that it's black and white like this. And if you talk with maybe other Christians or Christian ministers, they might give a different take. But if you follow the Ten Commandments, you go to heaven, right? That's kind of maybe that's a too general way of thinking about the commandments. That as long as you follow them, you go to heaven.
Well, I'm not exact. That's not really it. But that's all. You know, that,
Yeah. Okay. Fill it in. Fill in the blanks here.
correct me if I'm wrong. Why don't we let the chaplain tell us?
I was gonna say, that's a very common understanding among Catholics.
Yeah. Right.
Other Christians might say it different, it's like you have to have this personal relationship with
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, well,
Uh-huh.
you have
That's
to.
what brings you.
Right,
Right.
that's a lot of.
Oh,
So
okay.
you have to accept Jesus in
I'm
your
sorry,
heart.
that's
That's
a
why
lot.
people can like
Yeah,
their
right, but
deathbed
not necessarily
accept
Catholics.
Jesus and be absolved from all their sins, kind of thing. Yeah. But that,
Okay, got it. Okay, I see the nuance. I guess I was talking about 10 Commandments as they're not just within Christianity, but
like
also
in the
Judaism.
yeah, for sure.
Well, actually, I shouldn't say that because within Judaism, see, this is
I know it's
Judaism. There's not that same sense of heaven and hell. You know, as soon as I make a statement like that, it's going to be, yeah, that's not right. So but overall, like in general, I think it's kind of a generalization. You know, be good and you'll get a ticket, right? That's general sense, maybe.
Oh, yeah, that's what.
and have a lot of babies. I'm like, oh, that was important. So can I just say this is killing me. Okay, so the first 6 of the 16 precepts, the first 3 are taking refuge. That's way different from the 10 Commandments. I take refuge in Buddha, I take refuge in Dharma, I take refuge in Sangha.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then the next one, you know, is like the pure precepts. I mean, I just think, you know, if you can't figure it, like, do good, don't do evil, help other people. Like that's, you know, that's like
Yeah, that's a big difference right there.
Yeah.
That's
So
a big,
anyway.
thank you. I'm just kind of giving broad brushstrokes
know,
here, but
just-
those are the specifics. And hopefully, I mean, you guys have been studying them over the past year, so you've got more nuance and just thanks to the reading and the discussion. Just a couple, the precepts are about ending suffering. That's why we practice them. Basically, we want to end suffering. We want to end our suffering. We want to help others to end their suffering as well. The other thing that's really important is that we don't receive them and then never receive them again. So that's why Pam and George are here. They can receive the precepts again. Right? You don't just, and we do the full moon ceremony regularly. I don't remember ever receiving the 10 Commandments. You don't receive them. Like this is the law, right? It's like set in stone, literally. This 10 Commandments. And we never did any ceremony of them. I don't know, in the Catholic Church, we never did any ceremony. We would read them. Maybe we would kind of know about them, but they weren't central. Whereas the precepts, they're in the Buddha's time, every full moon, they were recited. So usually twice a month, every 2 weeks, the precepts are recited. Yeah.
Is it a full moon once a month?
Right, the full moon is once a month, but it was I think it's every 2 weeks that they had some kind of a ceremony around the precepts where they're recited again. Again, coming from a culture, a Western culture, where we have a lot of shame and guilt around following rules and that kind of thing, we really need to understand intellectually what we're doing here. And I think you guys have a pretty good idea of, these distinctions in culture, and it's not about shame, it's not about making you feel guilty. The purpose is ending suffering, improving Zazen. We want that, right? We want better Zazen, we want to end our suffering. And so it has us looking at these precepts. And from a Soto Zen, the beautiful part about the Soto tradition is that in receiving the precepts, you become Buddha. In receiving the precepts, you become Buddha. It's kind of like this kind of a magical ceremony, or it's had that in its history. Maybe that doesn't resonate with us because there's, what do you mean magic?
Anti-magic.
I thought it was supposed to be logical.
I think Nonan said one time in monastic practice, I think it was like precepts were once a month, but there was also a ceremony where monks would stand up
Oh, yeah.
and recite their offenses to the group.
Oh, yeah.
Receive,
Well, that was daily.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so like,
That was daily.
was it daily? Okay.
Yeah. If you did something that was that you wanted to say to the community, you would say it at a certain time called sangha, and you would do it at the beginning of the tea ceremony. And I remember doing this to everybody. One time I was in training, and it was my job to serve tea that day, and I had woken up super early to wake up everybody, and I was overly enthusiastic, and I had this tray full of really expensive tea bowls, and I tripped, the tray fell, and almost all of the bowls broke. And the teacher, the Eno there said, you've got to make repentance. You got to go around to each of the offices and tell the teachers what you did, and you've got to say it in front of the whole assembly. And it was helpful. It was a good experience because, it's just acknowledging, when you screw up, what if I tried to hide that fact? These broken tea bowls, I could have maybe put them in the garbage can, swept it up real quick, and gotten some more tea bowls. And then somebody would wonder, where was that tea? Where are those tea bowls? And my teacher would be really upset when people didn't, she would just say, just tell me if you did something that, you broke some property, or because then she would go and looking for something, she couldn't find it and wondered what happened to it. And so it's about being honest. It's really about speaking the truth. You shouldn't have to wait for somebody to tell you to be honest. Just say, this is what happened. Will the other person get angry and upset? Probably, maybe not though. Maybe they appreciate it. It's easier to say it to somebody if you know they're not going to get angry. And I try not to get angry. That's our precept too. Do not give way to anger. But we are all human with this, and people do get upset when we do something, but it's better to just say it. And then you've said it, and it's okay. Ultimately, it's okay. There's a story about a monk who, I forget who it was, he broke his master's favorite tea bowl, and before telling his master that he broke the tea bowl, he asked him, could you please tell me about impermanence? And so the master gave him this eloquent talk about impermanence. And so the monk said to the master, and I'm so sorry, your bowl has met it with impermanence. So we can be lighthearted about it too.
Pam and I gave each other a knowingly look here.
Yes,
Oh yeah?
we broke one of Nonan's favorite bowls in the kitchen one time, and he came in and we both held up and said, it was already broken.
Nice.
Oh, right.
How did he respond to that one?
Well, you could tell he wanted to get mad, but they just...
All right. Wonderful. Anything else that, help me to finish this up. If there's other things, please bring them up. If it comes up later, please bring it up. There's bound to be misunderstandings when we're talking about precepts and how to fulfill them. We all got egg on our face, right? I've got egg on my face trying to talk about the precepts and keeping them. I don't do it, right? I try. That's my goal. And I keep at it. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. That was Bodhidharma's teaching. Fall down 7 times, we screw up. That's not the end. You got to get up again. Get up again. Keep doing it. Don't give up on yourself, right? I don't give up on you. I don't give up on me. Do it.
I think teachers should talk more about the precepts, because it seems like that's usually seems to be absent from Dharma talks, at least the ones
Oh, precepts.
that are precepts.
Yeah.
Ah,
Sometimes they're mentioned in there a little bit about killing and so forth, but it gets real complicated, that especially if you're doing it on a Sunday morning, because people are coming from a Christian faith, and you start talking about precepts, then you gotta start turning, do a lot of explaining.
Yeah, and this is why we need time to ingest what they're about. This is what you guys have been doing, right? You've been studying them for over the past year. You can't do this I'll do my best to talk about them if it comes up, when it comes up, or I might bring it up too. Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
yeah, for sure. All right, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How do you wanna close?
Let's do it.
May the merit.
May this merit, yep.
May this merit extend universally with all, so that we together with all beings